A POTA presentation. Yeah, and do you want to turn the camera on me so you get
Yeah,
the full, excellent,
full experience.
experience.
All
Okay,
right.
so this is a revision of a POTA presentation I made a couple of years ago. Since then, I've racked up a bunch more activations at various places, and so I've included those plus a little update on techniques and details. So next slide. Okay, this is me in my ham shack. That's the yogi guy with the oh, thanks. There you go. The yogi guy with the hat, that same hat, different outfit. So I was licensed, amateur extra license in 2018. My educational background, BSA, PSEE, Cal Poly, and SLO, San Luis Obispo, MSEE, San Jose State U. 40 plus years developing our hardware and systems. And I also participated in IEEE 802 standards development for 11 years. Right there. Okay, so POTAs. So there's SOTA, some of us on the air, POTA, parks on the air, LOTA, some people are actually doing lighthouses on the air. WOTA, Walmart parking lots on the air, that's actually a thing. EOTA, islands on the air, BOTA, boats on the air, and OSOTA, other stuff on the air. So there's quite a range of
On the air.
on the airs. Let's see. There we go. So parks in the air. This shot is at Ecos State Park in Oregon. As you can see, it's a very beautiful place. So in the International Portable Amateur Radio Operations general focus is on emergency awareness, excuse me, communication from parks, national, federal, state, provincial, getting outdoors, contact with the public. You can operate in low or no RF noise. I've operated at below S1. And the point of entry is creating an account on the POTA website. With respect to contact with the public, so you set up somewhere, right, a park, and you're doing your thing, and people randomly wander up and ask you what you're doing. Some people ask if you've got a Chinese fishing pole or equivalent mast. They ask you, "Are you fishing?" And you could be nowhere near anything, any body of water. So that's a part of the social part of this. Let's see. Okay. POTA elements. So in the United States, it has to be a state or a federal park. It can't be a county park. You operate within the park boundary. That includes usually the parking lot. So if you don't want to get if you don't want to get out in the wild, and stomp through the bushes, if they have a decent parking lot, you can do it there. So QSO date, time on, meaning when you started, band, mode, and call sign are basically the information you need. An activation is 10 contacts, any band, any mode mixed. So you can have 5 on 20 meters and 2 on 10 meters and maybe a couple contacts on 40 meters. You get up to 10, you're good. And you could be doing single sideband or FT8, whatever mode mixed. So, and then the ADIF file name includes the activator's call sign, the part number, and the activation date. So the ADIF file is uploaded to the POTA website, and your activation is cataloged. Oh, there we go. I think I need to stand like this. Anyway, so POTA means portable. So if you're operating single sideband, for instance, in my case, you need a radio. FT891 is what I use. A battery, an antenna. A tuner is optional, depends on your antenna. The solar panel is optional as far as power. and the table is optional. I sometimes operate out of my car. And the sunshade is optional, although recommended. There we go. FT8 operation. So for me, it's an FT891 battery and antenna. Sound card dongle, talk to feed signals to the FT891, USB cable to control the 891, a laptop, a tuner is optional, a solar panel is optional, a table is optional, although difficult. The sunshade is optional and the Starbucks is optional. So this is not really an activation. I was driving north with my wife to go to CPAC, and my wife was looking around for a park, and she found this park in Wairika. It's called Greenhorn Park, and it's sort of off the road, but it happens to be on a hill. And so I got set up and contacted the rhubarb net, which some of you are familiar with, from the park. And I got good signal reports, both from San Jose area and from San Diego. And at that time, I was using a 17-foot random length antenna, 25 feet of RG178 and 9-to-1 union. So that's not really a fancy setup, pretty straightforward. And you get good distance. So here are a few scenarios. I like to operate at the beach or near the beach because it's pretty. That's the primary reason. And because we have a whole bunch of state parks between Half Moon Bay and Santa Cruz, and further south. So this is an activation at Año Nuevo State Beach. The parking lot is kind of off to the left. And then there are all of these, there are a bunch of picnic tables right near the bathroom. Now, bathroom is another thing that you need at your location. Some of us more than others. So that I was operating at 100 watts on 20 meters, an in-fed half wave, 49 to 1 homebrew transformer, and made 44 contacts, which isn't bad. Sim sideband contacts are, when they're the most difficult mode, I think, in operating POTA. FT8 is much more reliable. I've actually been skunked on single sideband. And so that's a really nice location. Mendocino Headlands in Northern California. Here's a case where I'm sitting in the car operating. There wasn't a picnic table or anything. And it was windy, so it was nice to be in the car. And this was using a Buddy Stick Pro, which is the antenna you see there. FT8 13 contacts. So even with FT8, you don't always get a pile of contacts. This is Bean Hollow State Beach, so you may know that. It's just north of Pigeon Point. And so I activated single sideband 44 contacts with my Buddy Stick Pro. You can see I'm setting up there. And my wife is my photographer. This is Pescadero Marsh Natural Preserve. That's a Buddy Stick Pro again, 100 watts, made 21 contacts there.
How long do you normally operate?
Well, it depends. If my wife's with me and she wants to wander around the beach or whatever, then I operate longer. Some days, it's an hour to get 10 plus contact. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 hours. And it depends a little bit on the mode. Yeah.
What kind of battery are you using?
Well, my current battery is a 35 ampere LiFePub 4. It was actually, excuse me, the battery box that I won at CPAC one year. And it's very nice, very light, easy to use. This is not a POTA. We have friends who have a quote cabin, unquote. north of Big River on the Mendocino coast. And so you can see on the right, I have a couple dipoles that I can connect with a PNC connector. And so I think after I set up the 20-meter one and worked from the Lazy Boy or wherever that chair is. This is near my house, River Glen Park, San Jose. City parks, I mean, if you haven't done it before, you need a little practice because first of all, the first time you go out to set it up, you'll forget some key piece of gear. So if you go to a nearby park, well, then you pack your stuff up and go back to your house and get the gear and come back, which is a little hard to do if you're coming from San Jose to a beach. So it's a good place to practice. I would get on the rhubarb net from River Glen Park in the morning just to have some people to talk to. So single sideband operation. So you have to log, right? Because you have to submit your log file to the POTA site. Hammers is a good logging tool. It works on a phone or a laptop, and you can set it up so it has a format for POTA. So then you set the conditions up where you are, whatever, and then all you have to do is enter the call sign, right? And you've logged the contact. And what you have to do then is output a data file and then get that. I use there's a program called I can't remember, but basically it's an ADIF management program that operates kind of like Excel. So one of the things that so you're out there, you're at noise levels S1, you're tempted to crank in your preamp. And I was doing that for a while and I realized that my audio was really distorted. Well, so I cranked out the preamp. But you can be, you're working people usually at their home QTH. And so depending on where you're located, you can have a bomb and signal come back. So this is a sample call, CQ POTA. This is call sign at park US-XXX. And the current park number, it used to be a K for a park. So we K-XXX. The current system is US-XXX. The other thing that happens in POTA is sometimes you're at a park, you call out, somebody calls back, and they're at a park. And that's called a park to park. And you log that a little differently. The Hammers app handles it, but you actually upload two ADIFs, one for each park, really.
John, are you calling out just the park number or do you give the park name as well?
Well, when I'm doing single sideband, somewhere, you have your patter, and I will often insert the park name or the park number, just to vary it a little bit.
I find I have to look them up afterwards because I don't know where they are.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing to write them down first. That's one of the prep things that you don't think about, but these days I at least take a pad of paper, and before I start, I've already written down the park name and the park number, so I can refer to that if I have to. But yeah, because if you just go to the park and you set up and you sat down and then you go, well, where the hell am I?
I was thinking more the other way around. Like I hear people calling CQ POTA, and they give the 8762, and I'm
Right.
like, okay, where the hell is that? I have to look it up.
Yeah, well, The Hammers app will show you where they are. And there are, I think, some of the logbooks will do that as well.
Do you ever announce the name of your park while you're?
Yeah, during the call, so CQ POTA, KM6TUX from US yada, yeah. But I don't do it, I kind of mix that in. You have to kind of keep yourself awake. ADIF Master, that's the Excel-like program that will edit your log. Sometimes you double and you don't realize it, right? If you're just logging with WSJTX, there's no mechanism to ID a double. And so you look at your ADIF master log and you find you had a couple doubles or something like that. One thing that's very important if you're just doing this thing, wherever park you select may have no cellular coverage. So you have no internet, and if you're a Windows operator, you have no way to sync time. So keep that in mind. So let's see, hang on a second. Let's good. Yeah. So here's a tip on adding POTA to your call sign for FT8. In the WSJTX settings, you look in there and you can change TX6 to include POTA. So when you transmit in FT8, you're identifying yourself as a POTA station, and that helps some. People were more likely to come back. So this is the most important thing. Be sure that your laptop time is accurate. And then in WSJTX, there's a built-in log. And if you click on, I'll show you later, but basically you can rename the current log. And then when you start making FTA contacts, it will create a new log and automatically fill in the stations you connect to. Okay. Oh, see, go back now. Okay. So yeah, I showed that. So here's where you find the built-in log. Under the file menu selection, there's something called open log directory. So you open the log directory. It doesn't show very well here, and you'll find that there's a WSJTX POTA.adif, which is the built-in file. So basically you rename that if you want to, and automatically it will, when you start recording again, it will create a new log file. Like I said, clock synchronization is a big deal. For short outings, you can sync your computer time with NIST before you leave home, like for a Windows machine. Just go in and sync your time, and that's usually good enough for a half a day or so. And usually you won't have any problems. There's a program called JT Sync, which works in Windows. It syncs with NTP servers when available, or it derives the sync from the WSJTX QSOs. So as you receive signals, WSJTX signals, it sort of examines the signals and decides what your time sync needs to be and adjusts it. If you're too far out, you may have to guess the initial setting so that it works. For MacBook Pro, which is what I use now, just take the computer, no sync necessary. It automatically syncs when you're online. So equipment, my radio is, like I said, is an FT891 mobile radio, 100 watts, HF and 50 megahertz, relatively small and rugged, only 4 pounds, which is not a bad weight for a portable radio. 15 amps typical current drain at 100 watts, spec is 23. The issue is conservative. Spectrum display, but no waterfall. And then it's kind of become the de facto standard for POTA 100-watt operations. Some people, you know, take an NCDXC or some other larger radio with a big nice display, but it'll weigh, you know, 20 pounds or somewhere between 10 and 20 pounds, which is off-putting when you have to move it. My antennas, well, I have a bunch of them. I have a homebrew 20-meter infed half wave with a 49-1 unon, 240-43 core. It's quote resonant antenna, unquote. No tuning, 100-watt FT8, no problem. And I operate as a sloper with a carbon fiber pole and a tripod. So that's pretty simple. Set up the tripod, you know, attach the hot end of the antenna to the carbon fiber pole, raise it up, and lay your what am I trying to say? Lay your transformer down somewhere. You know, some people use a 4-foot stake, but mine's in a little box, and so I just put it on the ground, no problem. So the other one is a Buddy Stick Pro Deluxe, which is a really nice antenna, but it's, I don't know, when I bought it, it was $200 and something, and probably more now. It's also a resonant antenna, but it requires tuning with a long single radio, and you set the length depending on the band. And it doesn't take too long, and it's a very sturdy antenna. And I have a PAC-10 4020 infed half wave, which is resonant, no tuning. It'll do 100-watt single sideband, 50 watts FT8. And I usually operate this as an inverted V. And others, I have other antennas, but these are pretty much my favorites. Batteries, like I said, I've got a 30 ampere-hour LiPo 4 battery, the BioEnel in a box with a meter and power pole connectors. Other batteries, all batteries either came with power pole connectors or I added them. But this is my primary battery for POTA. Spares. So there's the old saw is 2 is 1 and 1 is none. That's where you need to bring spares, power pole cables, because surprisingly these end connectors after a while break. Extra coax, you never know. Extra short coax for interconnects, depending on your setup. Alternate antennas, extra coax adapters. Some repair tools. I have a tool bag with lots of tools. My tendency is that if I break it, I change to a different antenna, or I go home. And adapters to operate from a car battery accessory port as a backup power source. So if for some reason you forgot your battery, but you have, you know, a way to operate from the car battery accessory port, you've got power, and so always good to have a backup. Here's another site. I didn't actually activate this because my FT891 had a failure that I didn't pick up before I left home. The mic was dead. So, and I didn't bring an FT8, so I couldn't operate FT8. So it was a very nice location and a nice drive out there and a great view, but no POTA. So check your equipment before leaving home. China Beach State Park. This is a really nice place to do a POTA. You can see, look at the bay. This is up in Marin, basically the North Bay, Marin County. And it's a very long park. It stretches along the western shore of the bay. Found this location, really nice place, good setup. And the bathroom was about 20 feet off, just off to the right. Forest Nail sideband contacts, that's what I started with, and it wasn't looking very good, so I switched over to FT8 and got 15 contacts. The antenna, which you can see there, is a bottom-loaded tap coil. And the coil was provided to me as free by Art, N6MFT, you've probably heard of him.
Yeah.
And then I use a 17-foot telescopic pole on top. And then 16, 17-foot long radios. And it's, pretty good.
Excuse me, how do you do your radios and not get into people's way?
Well, I didn't make a big deal about this in the presentation, but I try to set up where there are no people. Every once in a while, I get messed up on that. I was at Mendocino State Beach one day and I thought I'd found the perfect location for my antenna. So I set it up and I went back to the car to get the radio set up and all that. And then all of a sudden I noticed this long line of people who wanted to look at the overlook right there. So I was right on the edge of the hill and I had 10 or 12 people wandering through. So basically I had to, close it all up. So look for some place where it's okay to have people, but if possible, they're not wandering all over where you're set up. It's a problem, but not a big one. So I had a contact in Alaska and then Southern Ontario. Here's the map from the Hammers app. You can kind of see the spread there. So we're talking about a vertical antenna, either the Buddy Stick Pro or Art's contribution, and a very modest setup. 20-foot, basically 24-foot sloper kind of setup, and I'm working Alaska and most of the central United States. So that's the main part of the presentation. I'm open for questions.
How high does your fiber thing go?
It's about 21, 22 feet.
And then your end thread is just from there to the ground.
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah, pretty, and it does have a quote direction unquote, but mostly it doesn't matter. You said about it. It's not very directional.
Do POTA operators use CW?
You could, yeah, you can use any mode.
But do POTA operators use CW?
Oh yeah, there are a lot of POTA operators that use CW. Yeah, see, I don't do CW, but CW is very good because you can use modest power and get lots of data.
Yeah, a little worse than FT8, but still better than SIDE.
Yeah.
Are the park rangers pretty much supportive when they talk to you up there? They want to know what you're doing or?
Well, they'll roll, if, I very rarely encounter a park ranger because they're off doing other stuff. But once in a while, you want to wander up and you chat and tell them what you're doing, and usually they're very interested. But I haven't had a park ranger say, what the F are you doing? So that's been good.
So other than the obvious rewards of being out in Mother Nature with beautiful views and doing ham radio, two of my favorite things. Are there awards? Are there levels of achievement?
Yeah, and so there are two ways to get an award. One is as a hunter, which is somebody at home QTH receive a POTA signal, and you have the exchange. So when the POTA operator is responsible for uploading that, so when it gets uploaded, then they get a point for that activation. And so I've actually gotten more quote rewards unquote, I don't really bother printing them out, for hunting than I have had for the POTA activation. Anybody else?
What was your most exotic, location that you operated from?
Well, I think it was at the Echoes Park in Oregon. I've been up to CPAC a couple times, and I always intend to operate some interesting place. But it rains up there. So, uh, kind of limits the possibilities. But, you know, the almost one that was out in New Mexico, that was a pretty exotic location, I thought. And if you're traveling, you know, if you're driving, my wife's the better park hunter than I am. So she starts to tell me about parks nearby. And if you're taking it slow, you know, drive off the road and find a park and set up and, you know, work for an hour or two. Usually it's not, where we go, it's not screaming hot. It can be, but it usually isn't. And so, you know, that's kind of the excitement or the adventure is finding these places.
So the verticals, are you staking them or is just a tripod?
I was right by.
Oh, you're tripod. So hitting them all doesn't bother you that much?
Well, it depends.
Yeah.
Half Moon Bay State Park, which isn't on this list. The wind was significantly stronger than usual, so I think I grabbed a couple rocks and laid them on the tripod. Yes, but you know, it's surprising. The tripod, your antenna is not really a heavy wind load; it's very thin, and the tripod usually does fine. Yeah, a lot of, if you look at YouTube videos on POTA, you'll find a lot of people working, you know, something tossed in a tree or whatever, on the Pacific coast in California. You don't find a lot of trees. Yeah, you know, so I always have a tripod. Yeah.
Tripod vertical or a vertical with a end plate coming down.
Right. Yeah, or a inverted beam as well, because it sort of self-anchors.
Yeah, I typically use 30-foot mast, inverted beam, ring type of.
Yeah,
That, then I don't have to worry about having the mast very now, just the type of, so.
Yeah, 30 foot's a nice size. I'm cheap.
We have one comment on Zoom here. Kevin KW6E says you can time sync without cellular coverage if you have a GPS dongle. Connect it to the PC and run BKT time sync or other apps, and it syncs you to the GPS clock.
Yeah, that's true. I had trouble with that, so I didn't mention it. And now it works for Windows. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to doing the sync. And you know, if you have cellular coverage, you can, you know, plug your plug your phone in or use Wi-Fi and use that to sync your timing in Windows.
So do you generally spot yourself like somehow like?
Yeah, there's a way. The hard part is remember to do it. But on your way out or near your final location where you have cell coverage, you can log in to the POTA app and spot yourself. There's a way to do that, and that does help. And even if you don't, sometimes people will you'll contact somebody and they'll say, "Do you want me to spot you?" And you just say yes. That helps, and it does make a difference. Anybody else? Cool. Okay, great. Well, thank you very much.
No, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Good job.
Thank you, John. That was wonderful.
We're going to open this up now for comments from the members. We have someone in the queue here already. K6 KLY has a comment, another QST. And then anybody else in the Zoom audience, welcome to pipe in.
Hi, this is Russ K6KLY. Myself and Tony K6 Bravo Victor are going to the big show in Ohio in May to the National Convention. If there's anybody else on here that is planning on doing that, we'd like to hear from you. We do have a table reservation, a table set aside reserved for us at the Big DX banquet there at the convention. So again, if you're going, we'd like to hear from you, K6KLY or K6BV. Thank you.
Frank, can you see on there if there's anyone else who'd like to say anything before we go bye-bye?
Don't see anything. You can also speak up if you're on the.
Yeah, we can hear you, so if you just want to say it out loud, that's fine too. All right, well, that's it then. Thank you very much. Next month's show will be provided by N6OI on the 3D printing for ham radios. In the meantime, this is N6MFT. We're going to close the meeting and we can leave the Zoom up for a few minutes. If you guys want to visit, that's fine. And we'll close that down too. So 73.
Thank you.
I see a Frank. Yeah. Worse for wear, but. Oh, yeah. Let me eject it here. So we do it. Stop your recording. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Good morning.
This change, my leg runs up in the middle of that. Yeah, I have all the work with you. Yeah, so it doesn't say. Frequency. Back problem because it's causing it's being like it has to like sit there.